If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just speak love and watch the smiles come, bring my spirits up. There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.
Welcome back to my coverage of the Kristin Smart case. It's been a few months, so let's get up to speed on all the latest happenings. Some good news, some interesting news, and some pending news like Paul's former attorney, Robert Sanger, is being looked at for possible sanctionable offenses for his shenanigans during the Kristin Smart trial. He was ridiculous at times, in my opinion. I covered the trial on our channel, and you can go back to those episodes to see the hot mess Sanger was throughout the trial. I'm going to get the updates to you in date order, starting with June 14th, 2023. Good news for our local news station, KSBY, as they won an Emmy Award for coverage of Kristin's murder trial. As of June 23, 2023, SLO County Sheriff's Department has a new cold case detective taking over for Detective Clint Cole. As we know, he was a lead on Kristin's revived case, and he helped solve the case, which led to Paul's conviction, and then Detective Cole retired. Paul is serving 25 to life, and in this KSBY article, it reminds us that Kristin's family, the prosecutor, Chris Lambert, and his international podcast, all get plenty of credit for Paul's conviction, with Clint Cole deserving the largest portion of credit. Greg Smith is his replacement. He's already on the job, and he admits he has big shoes to fill and hopes he can accomplish at least as much as Detective Cole did. Smith has spent his entire career with the SLO County Sheriff's Department, starting as a patrol deputy many, many years ago. There are still over 30 unsolved cases in SLO, which are assigned to Smith. He plans on solving as many as he can. As of June 30th, 2023, this coverage is something I have wondered and have over time formed my own opinion as to whether or not Kristin was ever buried at Susan's house. Susan, of course, is Paul's mother. It was expected but not presented in trial. The prosecution stuck to Kristin being buried at Paul's dad, Ruben's house, before again being moved. Here's some new details about that and some review to help set the stage. Cutting-edge technology has led 3 experts in forensics to assert that Kristin was buried in Susan's backyard. We all know Paul murdered Kristin during an attempted rape back in 1996 after Paul was supposed to escort Kristin home from a frat party. This past April 2023, environmental engineer Timothy Nelligan, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, retired FBI forensic scientist Brian Eckenrode, and environmental scientist Steve Hoyt extracted soil from a home next to Susan's yard to perform soil vapor sampling. Testing did indeed detect human remains, had been buried behind the home. This technology is experimental and has never been used in court. We all know prosecutors provided evidence that Kristin was buried under Ruben's deck. This next line is interesting. Law enforcement is concerned that attempts to obtain a subpoena to dig in Susan's yard could be used to challenge the murder conviction. What do you all think about that? I do feel that the angle involving Susan's yard adds confusion. In 2020, during a raid of Paul's house in San Pedro, California, we all know about the rape porn files and the rape drugs and all that stuff that was found in his home. By all accounts, Paul's a serial rapist and now a convicted murderer, although nothing's been done about the other charges. Anyway, back to this episode. In 2020 and 2021, Cal Coast News interviewed Paul's neighbors, who asked not to be identified. They said they were suspicious in 2019 and 2020 when Paul finally cleaned up his overgrown, unkept backyard. After years of neglect, Paul then dug a large hole in the rear corner of his backyard. Only weeks later, just before midnight, Paul was seen taking something wrapped in a black blanket from the trunk of his car. He put that in the hole he had dug and covered it with plywood. When the neighbor asked Paul what he put in the hole, he said, quote, his dead dog, end quote. But according to the neighbor, Paul didn't even have a dog. Paul then built a 10 by 15 wood frame around the hole, placed rebar, metal reinforcing bars inside. Paul rented a concrete truck and filled the frame. Once it set, Paul laid red bricks over the concrete. Do you guys remember all the concrete bags and bricks and stuff piled around Paul's house in the pictures they were showing on the news? Well, he apparently got arrested before he could add the second layer of bricks. The neighbor said it was weird. Quote, you don't put bricks over bricks, end quote. After Paul buried the object, he did get 2 mixed pit bull pups, Lucy and her pup. The pup died, and Paul got another pit bull that neighbors said was vicious. Law enforcement in SLO will not stop till Kristin is recovered and returned to her parents, and it's been said over and over again. The whole community here feels exactly the same. We'll never stop looking for her. I'm not even sure what to think about all that about Susan's house. Let me know what you think in the comments. On a lighter note, as of July 19, 2023, Chris Prevel has been named 2022 Outstanding Prosecutor of the Year for a rural, medium county in California. And here's this headline from July 26, 2023. And it actually threw me for a loop. Let me explain. It will make more sense once we get over this part together. Reuben's attorney could represent Paul at his next hearing. The hearing is in August and is set to discuss a change of counsel for Paul. Robert Sanger, who defended Paul during his murder trial, is off the case at least temporarily. The new attorney is no stranger to the case, Harold Misick, and Paul wants Mr. Misick to represent him during the restitution portion of the trial. The upcoming hearing will only address substitute counsel. The actual restitution hearing will take place at a later date. Restitution hearings are required in all California cases, criminal cases that is. We all remember Misick representing Paul's father Reuben during their dual trial. After the 3-month trial, Reuben was found not guilty. Paul's former attorney Sanger filed notice of appeal, and Paul has been locked up since April of 2021. He's been at North Kern State Prison since March of 2022. He'll be moved to a more permanent facility later. Check out this creepy picture of Chester, one of Paul's nicknames, remember? It even came up in trial. One of the things they called him in college, even before he murdered Kristin. Apparently, at the upcoming hearing, Paul has to waive a possible conflict of interest related to representing Reuben during their dual trial. Once it's decided what Paul owes Kristin's family in compensation, approximately 50% of any prison commissary will be used for restitution. Paul has no assets otherwise. I wonder how that will all work out. The state appointed Solomon Wallach to represent Paul in the actual appeal process. I know we touched on the sanctions that they're asking for against Sanger back in my March episode. I just want to recap that a little bit, and I've been looking for updates. Let's go over what sanctions are in this context. Sanger could be ordered to pay monetary sanctions to the court for not abiding by the court's rules of conduct, as noted here in California Rules of the Court, Title II, Section B. Sometimes sanctions could be extremely serious, including suspension and even disbarment, which is inability to practice law. Sanger is not being threatened with anything that serious, but if an attorney has multiple sanctions on their record, it all counts. So it could be considered in the future if he continues the behavior. I hope the public has access to the decision whenever it is rendered. We all know Sanger filed his 10th motion to dismiss the case. All motions have been denied. In that 10th filing, he included accusations against the prosecution, Chris Prevel, where he accused the prosecution of prejudicial misconduct and violating court order. Let us not forget Chris Prevel was just awarded Prosecutor of the Year. Of course, Prevel fired back with his detailed opposition. Sanger claims the prosecution of mischaracterizing the burden of proof by asking jurors to choose if the case was based on a conspiracy or if Paul killed Kristin. Sanger argued that the podcaster, Chris Lambert, inserted himself into the conspiracy along with others and spread the theories. The prosecution refutes these allegations. The prosecution's response to the defense arguments were clearly a direct response to Sanger's arguments regarding a conspiracy. Prevel said, quote, "This was a fair response and appropriate rebuttal argument," end quote. Sanger claims the prosecution violated a court order by showing the photo Paul took while sexually assaulting another woman. The picture with the ball gag, we all remember that. The photo was only to show the device, but during his closing, Chris Prevel asked, quote, "Did it look like that woman was having fun?" End quote. According to the prosecution, the full context needs to be given. The prosecution mentions when Sanger asked a dog handler if they spoke dog, Prevel states he now knows why the question was asked, to prove the dogs were part of the conspiracy. Same reason Sanger asked if the dogs were friends, because they got together to be part of the conspiracy. The coup de grace was somehow the prosecution, all the dogs and these other people were part of the conspiracy in 1996, even though Chris was only a freshman in high school back in 1996. It's so absurd and ridiculous. Sanger said conspiracy theories are fun, and that's what brought in the fun word. So the prosecution then asked if the woman looks like she's having fun. Did witness Fleming have fun being disrespected by Sanger? Prevel also mentions witness Margarita, Jennifer Phipps, and others, and asked if they were having fun, holding guilt for 26 years. The prosecution says no one was having fun. Sanger said the bathtub ring in Kristin's temporary grave and the blood evidence was inadequate. Prosecution clearly says the allegations are all false and they misrepresent the nature of his statements. Prevel then accuses Sanger of committing sanctionable offenses by knowingly making false statements. He says, quote, "Claims of prosecutorial misconduct should not be utilized as a sword, but as a shield to ensure the right of a defendant at trial," end quote. He states the allegations are baseless and a pattern. I can appreciate this comment about how Sanger will throw anything, hoping it sticks. He'll keep collecting fees and hopes to get Paul off. Paul is guilty. Sanger did the best he could with a horrible situation and a disgusting client, but he lost. Get over it. The commenter tells Sanger to quit embarrassing himself and hurting the Smart family. Dragging it out only makes Sanger look desperate. So far, there is no decision publicly accessible. I can't wait to read once it's final. I'm putting the episode together where I had the pleasure of speaking to one of Kristin's friends from Oahu. Watch for that episode coming real soon. Hashtag find Kristin Smart.
If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just speak love and watch the smiles come.
Thanks for
Bring
watching.
my spirits up.
Don't forget to stop and smell the flowers.
There's some shit I